Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. For the video today, I'm just sitting down to share my experience on healing following my laparoscopy, which I had just over a week ago. And this laparoscopy was to diagnose and treat endometriosis by excision, to check out my adenomyosis, and also to put in a marina or IUD. Now, I've already put up a pre-op vlog as well as my surgery day vlog, and that also included my first day of recovery. I'll link both of those up and down below. And as for the first week of recovery, I had to decide whether I wanted to continue to vlog or ultimately do what I'm doing today, where I'm just going to be reading through my diary of all the notes that I made while I healed. I just chose to do it this way because I thought it would make more sense and be a little bit less monotonous. Now, I wanted to really quickly mention as well that I am just over a week after my surgery, and while I'm healing pretty well, I'm noticing as I sit down to talk I am getting very out of breath, so just bear with me through this. I'm hoping it's not noticeable, but I haven't really sat down and spoken much since the surgery, and I'm really noticing how tiring it gets. Okay, so I know I mentioned that I vlogged on my surgery day and also my first day of recovery. After I put that video up, I realized there were some pieces of information which I forgot to mention, which I'll just get out of the way first. I know I had mentioned in that vlog that I woke up very early on. I think if my surgery took an hour and a half, I must have woken up right after I was taken into recovery 1. And yeah, I'm pretty sure there's just 2 recovery areas because I remember waking up in different places. And I think in recovery 1, I woke up very sleepy, but I was aware, I wasn't too groggy. However, I did hear someone really badly suffering in the same room. There was someone like borderline howling, so I don't know if they had a very major surgery or were having a bad, wake up experience from the general anesthetic, but I felt perfectly fine. It was very sad and upsetting because I felt okay and I could clearly hear this person very upset and suffering a lot. However, I could see there were lots of nurses and doctors around them trying to make them comfortable. Not really sure why I noted that down, to be honest. I think I just wanted to say I was pretty aware when I woke up, even though I was tired. Now, I know I briefly mentioned something in my pre-op vlog, how I was worried that maybe my surgery wouldn't go ahead because of the Brisbane lockdown, and I thought maybe I'm just being paranoid. Obviously it did go ahead, but something very interesting I found out as I was being discharged from the hospital was that a lot of surgeries apparently got cancelled over the course of the lockdown, so I do feel very lucky that mine still went ahead. But now that that's all caught up, I'm going to go through everything following my previous video where I ended on my first, or at the end of my first recovery day. So on that second night that I slept at home, or second night of recovery, let's say, I woke up in the middle of the night at about 1:30. I think I was awake for about an hour, and it was a weird feeling waking up. It wasn't from pain, even though I did hop up and have a Panadol, or like 2 Panadol or whatever. I woke up and I think it was a combination of needing to go to the bathroom and also just being very hyper aware. I think maybe my husband rolled over or something and I was very paranoid, like, ugh, I gotta get out of here. So I just hopped up. I will mention there were a couple nights where I did wake up in the middle of the night, but that has since passed. Starting on my second day of recovery and moving on from then, I've really tried to keep busy, and I didn't push myself too far, but I just tried to get little tasks done each day so that I could slowly bring my body back and get used to doing things. I suppose I did this because I have had a laparoscopy before. This one that I had in the past, nothing was done. They basically just had a look inside and sewed me back up. But I healed a lot slower from that one, I think, and I believe it was because I just took too much rest and really slowly incorporated movement back. Whereas this time I thought, I will push myself a little, not too hard, but I want to heal quickly and I want to get back to living. And that's what I did. So I did a few things that second day. One of them was tidying my room. This room I'm in now, where I keep my makeup and clothing. I just had a bit of clutter around and I unpacked my hospital bag. It didn't take too long, but still I had pretty high fatigue then. It's still around now. You can probably hear I'm struggling to talk, but yeah, I tidied up and I took breaks in between all of these things. and I think I took a lot of naps that first or second recovery day. On the second day, I also felt ready for a shower as well, and I know that sounds like a weird statement to make. I still cleaned myself the previous day just with wet wipes and sort of polished myself all over, let's say, but I finally felt like I had enough energy to have a shower and try and prepare myself for how I wanted to shower, if that makes sense. I was very paranoid about my incisions or under the bandages getting wet, so I thought that I would try and shower covered in cling wrap around my abdomen. Ultimately, I didn't really need to do this since I had huge waterproof dressings, like the waterproof patches over the top of my bandages, so I was fine, but maybe that trick will help some people if you have like small bandages or depending on your incision. But that was fine. I also had a bit of a strange pain that started that night. I had strange shooting pain down to my knee, and it kind of started in what I thought was my right ovary going down to my knee. I'm not sure if it was somehow nerves waking up or if it was from sitting weird, but that was a lot of pain. I think it was more painful than any of my shoulder pain or abdominal pain healing in the surgery, but it only lasted that night, so I didn't follow up, kind of ask what it was. In hindsight, maybe I should have checked with a doctor that evening, but I didn't, and ultimately everything worked out. I just thought I'd mention it since that pain was like 10 out of 10. I'd say by the end of that day my throat also felt a lot better from the breathing tube, and I think I was sounding pretty normal. Now, I know my voice might sound a little bit funny here, but I think that's because my voice is getting a little bit tired from talking for more than, a minute like I've been used to over the past week. I think that's what that is. But yeah, I think my throat from the breathing tube felt fine by the end of the second day. On the third night, I woke up again. This time it was, however, kind of closer to the morning at about 4 a.m. and it wasn't from pain or really needing to pee. In fact, I didn't have any pain when I woke up, but I noticed I had like pretty bad night sweats, and I cannot tell why this was. Maybe I was just rugged up a bit too much in bed, or maybe something to do with the painkiller I took the night prior. I think the night prior, for the first 3 nights, I took oxycodone before bed, just in case. But yeah, that has dissipated over the course of the week. Just a very weird feeling since that's not something that I normally experience, but obviously my body's still healing, so maybe it's tied into that. On the third day, I actually had a pretty busy day. I walked on my treadmill for 20 minutes, just on flat, no incline, and pretty slow, but I still did it. I wanted to get moving. Originally I thought I'm gonna try for 5 minutes, but 5 minutes came and went, and I thought I can do longer. I don't think I'd be ready to run yet. I haven't tried, and truth be told, I'm still a little bit slow at walking, but I felt really good doing that. It felt like a pretty good achievement so early on post-op. That day was also cleaning day. I didn't do much at all. Luckily, Brendan did all of the cleaning around the house, and I was able to help with one task of hanging up laundry. Again, little things would tire me out, so after all of these things, I definitely took breaks. I'm sure I took a nap this day as well, and I had plans that evening. So what I did was made some falafel for my sister-in-law and her husband coming around. We had some drinks. I didn't go overboard or anything, but I had a couple drinks, like 2 beers and a cocktail. I didn't have any painkillers that day, and I felt up to it. It was really nice to do something social and have something to look forward to during the week. I wouldn't advise trying to do stuff like that early on for everyone, but considering by that point I was mobile, I was off my heavy pain meds, and even though I was slow, I was still feeling pretty good. I think it was a good thing for me. Another random point to mention from that day was I was able to go to the bathroom again. Yeah, I mean, I was able to pee right after the surgery, but the other thing, it took a few days, and I think if it had been a few days even longer, I would have needed to go to the chemist and get some sort of like stool softener or laxative or something. It didn't come to that. I just ate healthy and my body slowly started working again, so I guess that's something to keep in mind. If you don't eat healthy, you probably do need some sort of medical intervention, but considering everything was cleared out prior to the surgery and my body took a while to wake up, apparently a time frame of a couple days, wait time post-op isn't too bad. On the 4th night, I woke up a couple times again. This time was only to go to the bathroom, just to pee, and I think that's because I had quite a few drinks the night before. It wasn't just alcohol. Like I said, I only had like 3 drinks, but I had a lot of water as well, so I think that's why I woke up a couple times then. On the fourth day I did another big activity, if you will. It seems so trivial to say this because normally when you're able-bodied it's not even a big deal, but healing from surgery, I did groceries with my husband and he pushed the trolley. That was a learning lesson from last surgery, since I think a couple days post-op last surgery I tried pushing a shopping trolley and I didn't lift any grocery bags, but still wheeling a trolley around, it was just too tiring for me then, and I realized after I did it what a mistake that was. So going with my husband still to walk around for 30 minutes, pick up a few small items and put them in, I think it was really helpful. I was definitely slow to walk and it was tricky to get in and out of the car. Sitting in a car seat I think was something to adjust to compared to like a soft recliner or the bed, so that's something to think about as well. Obviously you can't drive super early on, but just think about being a passenger, maybe practice hopping in and out of the car and try and do a little walk. Find something to do in the day to keep walking and keep moving, even if it's a small amount. Like myself, I said I did treadmill, I did the groceries, so that was like my big task for the day, and I tried to keep like one big task a day and maybe one small one continuing on from here. On this day I also edited a video, which seems like a random thing to say, but I was pretty proud of myself just to be mentally clear enough to put something together and mainly stay awake for that amount of time while I was sitting on my comfy chair. That would have been the pre-op vlog, I'd say. And I also played with my dogs. So I hadn't walked them up until this point, and I still didn't that day, but I was able to pick up things in the yard, like balls and toys, and throw them around and just play with the dogs. I will say my puppies have been very good in this time. They haven't jumped up on me or hurt me or anything, and I was so worried that would happen, but I think they can understand that I'm healing and they know to be careful with me. On my 5th night post-op, I woke up and didn't need to get up. Like I just woke up once in the middle of the night. Again, it might have just been because I was aware of my incisions and like something woke me and I thought, oh, I better be cautious of how I'm lying down. I didn't need to get up though, so I think that was probably a big step, and that was the last night that I actually woke up in the middle of the night. On the 5th day, my big task for the day was doing my hair, so this was doing my regrowth and washing it out, and I was pretty happy with how I went. For myself, I just do it at home. I paint looking in the mirror like this, and I use 2 mirrors to get the back, like holding one and looking in a stationary mirror as well. And actually applying the bleach peroxide mix wasn't a trouble. I was worried a little bit about leaning and sort of lifting my arms that I'd get tired, and I felt pretty fine from that. One thing I will say was washing it out. I'm not really sure if there was a better way to do this, but my husband Brendan pointed out, are you sure you want to do this because you'll be washing like bleach and everything off down your body? What about the incisions? I thought, yeah, you're probably right. I felt fine to shower and everything with my incisions, but I thought in case maybe the hair mixture maybe does something to the bandages. So what I did instead was basically do a back bend into the tub, if that makes sense. Which I realised probably wasn't the best thing since I woke up so sore the next day. I'll mention that in a sec, but basically doing a bridge with my shoulders onto the edge of the tub while I washed out my hair products. This was obviously the bleach on my roots, as well as shampoo, conditioner and a hair mask. I felt fine at the time, but god, I was sore after. Anyway, at least I knew my incisions were okay and I had a full head of blonde hair again. That day I also had another milestone. Maybe it was because I was so busy or because I was having less fatigue, but that was the first day I didn't need a nap, and I haven't had one since. That day I also noticed how itchy my bandages were. Not the incisions themselves, but the skin under the band-aids, because it was like a big white patch on top of each incision and then like clear plastic wrap around. I was so itchy under there, and no matter of trying to scratch around the edges or on top of the bandage, like plastic part, not where the incision was, but no matter what I did, I was just so itchy. I think that was almost more frustrating than the incision pain, like when I was healing, because when you can't scratch an itch, there is just nothing more frustrating in the world. But at that point, I thought that the bandages would be coming off the following day when I saw my doctor. More on that later. On the 6th night, as you could probably expect, I did sleep through the night for the first time and have done so since. On the 6th day, so just shy of a week, it was actually a pretty big day because I was due to see my doctor for my follow-up appointment after the surgery. Now, when I woke up, I felt so sore from basically my shoulders down to my calves, like every muscle in between there. Basically every muscle that wasn't in my face was hurting, and the only thing I can contribute it to was my very heavy duty hair washing the previous day. So it was self-inflicted, but I've heard for the past couple days from it, so I think that's a bit of a learning lesson. Don't do any weird acrobatics when you're healing from surgery. I'd probably hurt regardless whether I had the surgery and did something dumb like that, but I probably should have just gone to a hairdresser. Luckily everything was fine with my incisions, but I just really hurt to sit down and move and stand and walk and everything like that. However, I will say, from having a full body ache that felt like I just climbed a mountain, I had no pain in my tummy at all around anything to do with my surgery, so maybe that was a good thing. I don't really know. It did exacerbate my fatigue a little bit and made me a little bit slower to walk around though, so that was a bit frustrating, but not related to the surgery at all. Now, as this was the day of my follow-up appointment, I had to travel there, and I had the choice of either having my husband drive me, or I kicked around the idea of driving myself. I kind of waited until the day to make that decision, but we found out because of the lockdown, Brendan couldn't come in anyway, and I did want to be able to drive, so I took a test drive around the block first to see if I could stop, go over speed bumps, and everything like that, and I was fine, so I just bit the bullet and drove to my appointment. For myself, it was about 40 minutes there and 40 minutes back, and I was pretty good. I didn't hurt from driving, I felt completely fine and in control, so in less than a week I was driving again. I know driving will be different for everybody, depending on what your surgeon clears you to do. My doctor basically told me just to use common sense. If I felt I could, do it, and if I couldn't, don't. So I think that's probably the best advice, but if your surgeon says no, probably best to listen to them, since everyone will be different in terms of, you know, how much work was done, how far you have to drive, and things like that. Now, I went into my follow-up appointment with a huge list of questions. In hindsight, I probably should have saved those in the format that I had just to share questions to ask, but I did, however, keep notes on the information I was given, including the answers to my questions. So I'll share those here in case this helps in terms of questions to ask in your surgery follow-up. In my follow-up, I guess the biggest piece of information was the confirmation of endo, and obviously I had heard that endometriosis was cut out. That was on my surgery day, but it needs to be, I guess, actually analysed at a lab to be properly diagnosed, and that's what I found out. So with me, the endometriosis was in a very early growth stage, even though it was in quite a few places. So I guess it hadn't been in the body too long, most of the spots, but yeah, it was on quite a few organs. The doctor did cut it all out, which is good, so he said that recurrence or reoccurrence is quite low likelihood for me, just because the growths weren't like black, really old ones or really big ones. There was just lots of little spots everywhere. So due to this, reoccurrence is actually pretty unlikely for me. Hopefully that is the case, because he did manage to cut out everything he saw. He had a good look, and I guess technically I wasn't in my surgery too long. I was in for like an hour or an hour and a half, but I had him and his, well, an assistant surgeon as well. I paid them both, so it wasn't just like nursing staff, but 2 doctors working at the same time. So I would assume and believe that they did a pretty good job checking. The adhesions, or like scar tissue, I found out had actually attached my bladder to my uterus, which I thought was crazy. I saw the picture of 2 like organs in the photo fused together, and he just had to cut through it. And I realized as well, I'm obviously not showing pictures here. If anyone wants to see those, maybe I'll make another video going a bit more in depth, but I think considering it's a little bit hard for me even to wrap my brain around, obviously I see the organs, but I feel like nobody else really needs to see that. I don't know. In terms of numbered stages, since I know everybody likes to share that and find out what stage they are, I did ask, and I got the feeling that my doctor wasn't really a fan of that staging system, and he explained to me why, and I kind of get it. My endometriosis was, let's say, technically stage 1, but I have adenomyosis 2, which isn't included in the stages. If it was included, I'd be a stage 4, because I obviously have these endometriosis growths outside of my uterus and quite a bit of growths into the uterine muscle, the adenomyosis. So bit of a tricky answer, but technically stage 1 for endo, stage 4 if we include it all over the body. Now, based on my conversation with my doctor in my follow-up, it seems like I am really healing pretty well from the surgery, and nearly everything's back to normal in that sense, barring the fatigue, which I still experience. But I should expect things to get potentially a bit worse before they get better in terms of my marina or the IUD. He said that I could maybe expect pain for up to 4 months, which is a little bit scary. He in fact gave me some long-term anti-inflammatory meds, like a high dose. I'm just meant to take one every single day to help ease that in. And I guess I'm just going to follow his advice and see how I go. I think for me, my understanding is the marina will be a little bit more painful at first because my uterus is obviously very different. It's got all these growths, and cramps for me are so bad to begin with from a period. So if it's squeezing on that little device in there, that could be quite unpleasant. But I'm just going to see how I go. I'm hopeful that through that it stops my period, because I've mentioned already, I'll just mention again, I already have the implant in my arm. I still have that. I've spoken about it for years. I was put on the birth control pill prior to my surgery, and he wants me to stay on that, and the marina. So I know people, like a lot of people, especially these days, a lot of women are kind of anti-hormonal intervention, birth control and everything like that. A lot of people are going more natural, and I think if that works for you, that's great. Truth be told, I wish I could do that. If I didn't have excruciating period pain and these conditions, it's probably what I'd be doing. But especially so because of my conditions, I really just can't have periods. If I do, I'm obviously in a lot of pain, and these things can grow back and just spread out of control. So I'm just doing what I have to do. I think long term though, the marina is going to take care of me along with the pill, and eventually when my implant needs to be taken out, he said that can, but I'm just going to keep it in until it expires and see how I go from there. I will be sure to keep you in the loop though over the coming months with how I go with the IUD. I am really hopeful on that front that it helps in terms of my pain after it settles in and causes me more pain. Another thing we discussed in there was when I'm cleared to do certain activities. Like, I think the first thing I asked about was, when can I have a bath? Because I was dying to have one. Obviously I said I had a full body ache, and I just really wanted to have one. It's winter, it's what I do. I love my baths. And he said that I should be able to do it right away. So when I got home, I jumped in a bath. But I also checked about strenuous exercise and sex, and he said, again, kind of like driving, just use common sense. So in no way am I ready to run yet. Like, I'm fine walking, but I'm so slow at walking, I can't imagine when I'll be fine to run. But for me, I'm basically just going to listen to my body and take things as they go, and see when I'm ready to start doing things like that again. At the end of the follow-up, we also booked another follow-up for 6 weeks down the track. So I suppose then I will just chat about how the IUD is going with him and how I'm healing in general, and if there's anything useful from that appointment, I'll share another update down the track. But when I got home, like I said, I did treat myself to a bath because I had that full body ache, and it had been a week since I've had one, so of course I wanted a bath. I was able to do so, I think, because I still had the damn waterproof dressings on. My doctor didn't want to take them off yet, even though I said they're really itchy. I kind of made the mistake and said, oh, I can live with it, it's not so bad, but oh my god, it was so itchy underneath the bandages. Again, I want to stress, it wasn't the incisions, it was just underneath that plastic covering on my skin. But what can I do? He said just leave them on for 2 more days, and underneath there are butterfly strips, which I'll just leave until they fall off. I'm not actually going to show my incision sites now because I still have the bandages on, or I took them off, cleaned the area and put them back on. I just feel a little bit more comfortable like that. Wearing clothes, I don't want them to get snagged. So I'll see if I can put in a clip here now of how the scars are looking. Obviously look away, or I'll put a time on screen, skip to this point if you don't want to see some belly scars and things like that, but I'm just going to put that on screen now. Here's my tummy. My belly button now looks like the letter T. I've just got a little dot and a vertical scar. That's some old burns from a cooking accident, and this one on an angle looks a bit red from when I removed the glue, and I just have a horizontal one as well. Now actually, since the 6th day, or let's say that was day 6, by day 7 or a week after surgery, I felt pretty back to normal. I've been able to do things I normally do. I still have fatigue, but I'm not in pain anymore, not on any painkillers. Like I think I've said a few times now, I took the strong ones before bed on the first 3 nights and took Panadol and Nurofen throughout the course of the day for a few days after surgery, but I think I stopped around day 5, so I'm doing pretty good. I'm not back at work yet. For myself, I took 2 weeks off because my job is not too relaxing. I'm not sitting in an office, nor is it too strenuous, so I think 2 weeks is hopefully okay. I'll see how I go. I am kind of going back to work with a return to work plan in place just to try and not overexert myself, and hopefully I do okay. Because again, the fatigue is real. I feel like sitting here talking to you right now, I'm so out of breath, so sore from sitting upright, so I guess in some ways it's good to get back to doing this so I can kind of get a sense of how I'm going to go back at work. I'm going to need a few more days to rest, I think, and slowly work my way up to it, but yeah, I can tell just by sitting here talking to you right now, just talking and sitting upright, I feel very tired, so maybe that gives me some indication on how I'll go during the workday. I think I'm going to need a lot of breaks, but yeah, I'll see how I go. I'll keep you in the loop in terms of how everything goes in terms of getting back to normal activities in any future updates that I do. Another thing I'll definitely be keeping you in the loop on is how I go with the marina. I've heard some people have really good experiences and some pretty bad experiences, so while I'm hopeful for me, I will share everything as it happens. When I've got a bit of information to share, I should say, I'll share an update in the coming weeks or months. But yes, I have had some cramps start already. They felt pretty close to a period cramp, and I'd say it was maybe like a 9 out of 10 on the pain scale for me, but that was just kind of on and off over yesterday and today and the previous day as well. So yeah, it didn't start right away. I'd say maybe it's also comparative because I'm not noticing any surgery pain anymore, so now the next coming months this is probably what I'm going to feel as it settles in. But again, I just feel quite lucky that the doctor gave me that anti-inflammatory med, which will hopefully help. But now I think that's everything I needed to say. I'm sure when I upload this video there's probably going to be things that I remember, but if I do, I'll leave them in the comments down below. Likewise, if there's any questions you have for me to do with anything along these lines, please leave them in the comments down below because I'd love to answer them. And I think I'll be wrapping up the video here. So I just wanted to thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this one. Please give me a thumbs up if you did, and subscribe if you haven't already. And like I said, I will be leaving you here, so hopefully I'll see you next time. Bye!